Okay. Let me get into my spot here. Welcome, YouTube. This is Justin, Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. Glad to have you along this evening as we make a mess of things. What happened here? See, the mess has already begun. And I have a mute that I have to find. Oh, that's going to drive me up the wall. There we go. Good. Okay, so just about 15 minutes before we went on the air, I came on to do a radio check, only to find that the push to talk was stuck whenever I would engage the outboard gear for the radio. And so I quickly disengaged it and looked for the trouble, tested it again, and push to talk was still stuck. Went through that process, I don't know, about 4 times. And so had to get into some heavier duty troubleshooting and disconnected all of my push to talk devices. There are several in the room. I have a foot pedal that's on the desk to my right that I have stopped using very much. I have another foot pedal that needs to be on the floor, but it isn't. I don't like to use it because it's hard to feel where that switch is on the carpet. So at some point we'll get some better flooring in here, and that'll serve really well on the floor. So then alternatively, I have these little Heil Pro hand bugs that I'm using for push to talk. And so I've got this splitter, I guess that I would call it. It's just a device with a bunch of 1/4-inch ports, and so that's how I all of these devices plug in, just with a 1/4-inch plug. And somewhere in that splitter or something that's connected to that splitter is shorted and giving me grief. So I've had to unplug everything, and I just have the one hand bug to work with us tonight. So it's just about time to kick this thing into gear. And we have a couple of changes afoot, so we'll have to see how all of that plays out. And let's see, I thought I had my script up here, but I don't see it at the moment. It's probably behind something. Is this it? Let's see here. Yes, it is. So I think we're ready to go. So YouTube folks, if you'll hang out with me, we'll kick this thing into gear right now. Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Repeater. Regional Net. What am I saying? I don't know. Tonight I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater. This evening we are linked in with the following repeaters. We are linked in with Pine Log, Lookout Mountain, Somerville, Zello, Columbus, McDonough, Zebulon, Noonan, Jersey, Crawford, and Moreland repeaters. Tonight our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, but our Zello coverage makes us worldwide. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone, and that's mostly you folks that are listening, who make this the most active and expansive network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946. My name is Justin, and I'm located right here at Studio B in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your call sign, your tactical unit number, your name, and your location. I need all 4 of those things. I just can't operate without them. Got to have them all. At this time, I'll take check-ins. Any VoIP check-ins, please call Net Control now.
This is 253 WQNV 274, Donald from Blairsville, Georgia.
Okay, net control acknowledging Atlanta 253. Donald in Blairsville. It's great to have you with us this evening, Donald. Thank you for that check-in. Do we have any other VoIP check-ins? Net control standing by. Okay. Okay, give me just 1 minute, 1 moment here while I address a little technical snafu, and we'll get right back into things. Stand by 1 moment, please. All right. I've done it now. Doggone it. Let's see. Okay, I think that we are good to go. So, hearing no additional VoIP check-ins, we will go ahead and move right along. Now we're going to take check-ins from any guests, visitors, or new users. This would be anyone who is a guest, who is not a member of North Georgia GMRS but has a GMRS license and would like to check in, or any visitors to the area, or any youth members. Please call Net Control now. Okay, moving right along, we're going to go ahead and take check-ins now from anyone wishing to utilize the flagship machine. Anyone wanting to check in from the flagship 675 machine, please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 57 WQZC 882, Andrew in Holly Springs. This is Atlanta 434 WRKR 284, Ron in Cumming.
Okay, Net Control acknowledging Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs, and Atlanta 434, Ron incoming. Thank you so much for checking in with us this evening, Ron and Andrew. It's great to hear from both of you. Any additional flagship check-ins, please call Net Control now. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on. At this time, we'll take check-ins from any repeater anywhere. This is anyone who wishes to check into the North Georgia GMRS network, visitors, guests, folks without a TAC number and just a call sign, that works just fine. And of course, youth members are welcome to check in. Anyone, anywhere, please call Net Control now.
Atlanta 292, Derek.
I heard Atlanta 29 something, and was that 292 Derek in Rockmart? Come back and let me know if that's correct.
Atlanta 292. checking in, checking out.
This is Atlanta 270, Scott, from Cumming.
Okay, net control acknowledging. Atlanta 292 Derek in Rockmart. Thank you, Derek, for checking in with us this evening. I've got you in the log as in and out. And Atlanta 270 Scott incoming. I've got you in the log, Scott. Thank you for checking in with us this evening. Do we have any additional check-ins? Any repeater? Anywhere? Please call net control now.
Atlanta 393 WRKQ400. Andrew in Dallas checking in and out.
Okay, I've got Atlanta 393. Andrew in Dallas checking in and out. Thank you, Andrew, for checking in with us this evening. I've got you in the log as in and out. Appreciate that. Any other check-ins? Please call net control now. All right, well, I think it's time to kick this thing into gear. We have a total of 25 check-ins so far. Let me go ahead and review the early bird check-ins real quick. We had several of them in and out. We had Atlanta 285, CV Smith, Atlanta 286, Lynn, Atlanta 420, William, and Atlanta 32, Chris, all checking in and out. We had McDonough 22 checking in with us this evening, Atlanta 172, Atlanta 555, Dave, and we had, Atlanta 40, John, in Crawford, Alabama, checking in this evening. We also had some more in and outs. We had Noonan 80, Michael, from station number 3 at Union City. We had Atlanta 417, William, in and out with us from Auburn. We have Atlanta 76, David in Duluth, in and out with us. We also have Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs this evening. And we have Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log, sounding excellent tonight. And some more in and outs. We have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. We have Atlanta 538, Rob in Gainesville. And 539, Carol, also in Gainesville. Thank you, Rob and Carol, for checking in tonight. And that brings me to our last early check-in was Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. With that, I've got a couple of announcements to make. Just as a reminder, first off, I want to talk a little bit about Wallace Barbecue. On May 15 is now at 2 p.m., Saturday, May 15, 2 p.m., Wallace Barbecue in Austell. We'll be gathering with North Georgia GMRS members and enjoying a nice meal and some fellowship at the barbecue joint near Houston's home. And speaking of Houston, many of you know, and some of you may not, that Houston and Mona have suffered a little bit of a catastrophe this weekend. On Tuesday, their home was struck by lightning and was severely damaged. Nonetheless, Houston and Mona are well, and they're going to come back solid as a rock and strong as ever. So right now they are temporarily housed in their camper near Powder Springs, and they will see to the recovery from the mobile compound there. If anyone is interested in well wishes, please visit the North Georgia GMRS Facebook page for information and an announcement with some instructions and an address you can send a card to if you choose to. And with that, tonight, one more announcement to make. We were hoping for a visit with Atlanta 60 to give us a state of the network talk with regards to where things stand and be available to answer any questions. Unfortunately, Atlanta 6-0 has also suffered a bit of a catastrophe with some water damage to his home. And he has a meeting this evening with the restoration people and the insurance adjuster. So, with that going on, he may be able to come back to us once that meeting is completed, but for the time being, he is unavailable. So, that means I have to answer your questions. So, you might get good answers and you might not. I told Gary that I'd be happy to sit in and answer the questions for him this evening, but the cost to him is going to be that he's going to have to do damage control to correct whatever answers I give tonight. So, with that in mind, I think we should go ahead and kick this thing into gear and get started. So, with that, let me go right back to the log. And again, we had started off the evening with Atlanta 285. CV Smith in Murrayville is in and out this evening. Atlanta 286 Lynn is also in and out this evening, also from Murrayville. Atlanta 420 William had asked CV to check him in tonight. So by relay, William is in the log, but he is unavailable. I think he's eating dinner right now. He may come back to us in a little bit. But thank you, William, for that check-in from Roswell by way of Murrayville. We also have Atlanta 32 Chris driving the big rig in Lincoln, Nebraska, out there in the middle of absolutely nowhere. So thank you, Chris, for keeping those big wheels turning and keeping this nation supplied and fed. Next on my list, we have McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim wasn't sure if he was going to be available or not, but let's see if he is, and if he has any questions with regard to the state of affairs with North Georgia GMRS and new developments and new equipment and new repeater sites, etc. Tim, are you with us? All right. I guess I'm going to grab a drink and thank you for that. Okay, Tim is apparently busy. He thought that he might be. Having to be on call is something that I deal with quite frequently as well. Not as much as I used to, but early in my career, it was uncommon for me to go an entire evening without a call. And now I can go an entire month without a call. So I attribute that to a couple of things. One, we've educated our workforce in a way that they can handle a lot of the issues that they used to call for help on. And two, we have much better equipment out there today than we had 20 years ago when I first started with the railroad. So, but on-call has its challenges in every field. Next, we have Atlanta 172, Greg, our security force in Bremen, providing security for North Georgia GMRS. Greg, are you with us this evening, or are you busy tending to the hounds?
Yeah, I've been tending the hounds and I'm getting wound down now, so maybe in a few minutes I'll be 10-8 and monitoring. So, good evening, everyone.
All right, Greg, good evening. Appreciate meeting you the other day. That was very nice up there on the hill at Flagship, and your efforts at keeping the compound secure and fed while we were working. Great to meet you, and I never really got a chance to see Elvis, but that's okay. We had plenty to do up there, and I think that that was a very successful and very productive day. And I'm looking forward to another productive day up there to finish up some of those tasks. But like I say, it was great to visit with you for just a little bit. Next on my list is Atlanta 555, Dave in Marietta. Dave, do you have any questions or comments with regard to the state of North Georgia GMRS and where things are and what new is coming? Atlanta 555, Dave, are you with us? All right, I'm going to go ahead and show Dave as in and out, and we'll just go ahead and move on. And if Dave has an opportunity to chime in later, there'll be places where you can do that. Next on my list is Atlanta 40, John in Crawford, Alabama. John, how you settling in over there? John in Crawford, Alabama. Are you still with us? All right, John, you must have moved to a different spot. All of a sudden, we can't get you. I see you lighting up the repeater. I hear little bursts of static, but nothing that's even remotely readable. So, John, if you can get to a better location and try that again, that'd be great. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and read through some of our in and outs coming up. We have Atlanta 80 Michael serving this evening at Station 3 in Union City. Thanks for checking in and out with us, Michael. We also have Atlanta 417 William in Auburn, Georgia. Again, thank you, William, for checking in and out with us. And we have Atlanta 76 David in Duluth. David, thank you for checking in and out with North Georgia GMRS. Glad to hear from you. One more time, John, are you able to get in here? I've got a noisy copy on you, but I can read you, John. Well, I suppose out there in a barn and a metal roof is going to have some impact on your signal, but understand that you're in there in the out there with the dog, and didn't hear the dog barking, but definitely will look forward to catching up with you, John, and finding out all about your move and the new digs and what you're finding over there in Alabama. So good stuff, and we'll definitely be looking for you again real soon. Next we have Atlanta 780 Houston in Powder Springs. Houston, how are you doing this evening? And do you have any questions with regards to the state of North Georgia GMRS?
Net control 780 WQUV 439. Hey, no, sir. Don't think so right now. I can't think of any. I apologize. I'm still putting stuff up here in the camper trying to get things straightened out. But I'm listening, but I don't think I have any questions at this time. Just appreciate it.
All right, Houston. Well, we'll let you get back to getting your situation situated and getting things put away and organized. And glad to hear you on the air, and glad to know that everything is all right with you and Mona in those terms. Love to sit and visit with you at some point. I know you're busy now. May not be able to until the 15th, but I'm sure there's a lot of stories to be told over the events and happenings of this last week, and probably more stories to come of the events and happenings in the next several days. But hang in there and know that you get the entire community of North Georgia GMRS is concerned and interested in your welfare and willing to step up and help out in any way that we can. So appreciate that, Houston. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 180. Mike in Cherry Log. Mike, you sound fantastic there in the cereal bowl. Do you have any questions with regards to North Georgia GMRS?
Well, oh, Justin and Annette, I'm almost out of the cereal bowl. The flagship repeater solved my communication problems a little bit further north of here where they're still lingering, but I have no questions about the state of North Georgia GMRS. Only a comment. It's in my brief stay here, it's never been in better shape. The repeater did wonders, and in my opinion, our future is in excellent hands. It's going to get better, but right now things are beautiful up here, even with the leaves and the trees. I do want to give a call out to 780. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, Mona. Over.
No, well, thank you for that, Mike. Yes, I tend to agree that we are in probably the best spot that we've been in quite some time, and I still see a number of improvements on the horizon, and I'm excited about some of the changes to come. Many of you heard me speaking with Chattanooga 5.8 about SpaceX and the adventure that's going on in Boca Chica, Texas. And another SpaceX-related adventure is this new internet service called Starlink. And Atlanta 60 and I have both placed orders for Starlink terminals. And we're both anxiously awaiting for one or both of those machines to arrive. And as soon as one of them does, we intend to take it up there and put it in play at the flagship site, letting that be the head end for data for flagship, for Blue Ridge, and possibly for other locations, depending on what we can do in terms of microwave shots from that repeater. With that being the case, so the more of the network we can bring to that downlink site, the less dependent we are on things like AT&T and oh shoot, I can't think of the name of the carrier that we're using up there at flagship. But those various internet service providers and cellular carriers providing data. They're so troublesome. They're here one minute, they're gone the next. They're high speed now, they're low speed later. I think that's part of our trouble with Zello, is that the more traffic we generate, the slower the connection gets, and that causes our Zello to get choppy. So Zello seems to work fine most of the week, but on net nights it gets troublesome. So hopefully by transitioning some of our data to a space-based network and not being reliant on cellular networks and fiber optic networks and slow internet providers and internet providers that throttle our speeds based on various things, because we all know that if the neighbors want to watch Netflix while we're trying to pass data over Zello, the neighbor's Netflix channel is going to win. So that's just the reality of things today. And hopefully Starlink will help us to rise above that. So good stuff, Mike. Glad to hear you in here, and glad that you've gotten out of the cereal bowl and at least are sitting on the rim and enjoying the view. Next on my list, I have a bunch of in and outs again. I have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. Thank you, Bobby, for checking in with us tonight. I hope you enjoy your visit with your brother. And we have Atlanta 538, Rob in Gainesville, along with Atlanta 539, Carol in Gainesville, both in and out this evening on vacation. Rob and Carol, I hope that you have a terrific vacation and look forward to hearing of your vacation adventures very soon. That brings me next to Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. Shad, it looked like you were on Zello this evening. Are you going to try to do an RF check-in, or are you going to remain on Zello? Go ahead. Atlanta 252, Shad in Emerson. All right, let's move right along to Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald, are you here with us tonight? So you always got to wonder if they've dropped off or if Zello's just not letting them in. I can recall plenty of times when I've tried to get that push to talk, but you hit it too many times, and then it makes you time out for a while. And okay, Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. We're going to go ahead and say thanks for checking in with us this evening, and we'll move on to Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, how you doing this evening? Do you have any questions for the state of North Georgia GMRS?
Good evening, Justin and everyone in the net. No, not really any questions or anything like that. But boy, we sure have come a long way over the years as far as with the linking and all that. Even over the, I joined the network, I think, in 2016, and boy, the changes that have taken place and the interconnectivity and all that has been great. So, not really any questions, just kind of, sitting back and watching it all unfold. So, definitely very unfortunate for Houston and Gary, seeing they both had some issues that have come up with lightning and water. I'm glad that everyone is well and no one was injured in the incidents. Hopefully things will go smoothly getting the pieces put back together for them. So definitely the thoughts and prayers with them. Over here we're okay. Same old. Nothing really much has changed. Family's doing well. Work is insane. And that's it. Back to net control.
Well, fantastic stuff, Andrew. Glad to hear that you're staying busy at work and that the family as well. And yes, we've had some difficulties within the membership with some of our folks, but hey, we've got lots of good quality people to lend a hand and to chip in and to figure out what needs to be done and get it done. So that's been happening all along, and it'll continue to happen. And the same thing goes for some of these personal tragedies that have happened. In both Gary and Houston and Mona's situation, we're glad that they made it out. But we also have to acknowledge that in both circumstances, there's a lifetime of possessions and collectibles and memorabilia and just items that maybe had a high value and maybe weren't all that valuable to anybody other than Gary or Houston or Mona or Diana. And some of those items are lost, and some of those items are lost forever, and that's tough. That's a hard thing to deal with. And even though there may be insurance is never going to replace the memory that goes with a particular item that gets lost in an event like this. So just bear in mind that as much as we want to help, there's nothing we can do to ease the pain of losses for some of these things. It's just something that's going to have to be processed, and it's going to take time and heartache, and there's just no good way of dealing with it, because these things are gone, and these things are going to be irreplaceable. Now, a lot of things are replaceable. We have a desk or a radio. We have a sofa. We have a TV. We can buy those things all day long. Those things can be replaced easily and most often affordably. And there's insurance there. So hopefully in all of those cases, those items will be replaced without an issue. But the real issue are the items that can't be replaced and that are just gone. And the things that are attached to those items that are not tangible. That's the stuff that's hard for anybody to deal with. And I just want everybody to know that my thoughts are with you with regards to processing those losses, and prayers, and whatever comfort we can add. Although that we're not the ones that lost it. It's just kind of in any case, you know where I'm coming from. So with that in mind, Andrew, I appreciate your sentiments, and thanks for bringing that up. That brings me next to Atlanta, 434, Ron incoming. Ron, are you hanging out with us this evening?
Yeah, roger that. I am hanging out with you, and I want to say that the work that was done on Flagship this past weekend has been fantastic. I've heard a lot of people coming in loud and strong, and some of the people that were having some issues getting in are getting in a lot better over the past few days, and I think everybody deserves a big round of applause or a hands up or a thumbs up or whatever you want to do. Just give them a little bit of extra appreciation because they're doing a fantastic job up there, making sure that all the connections are good and signals are good, and everybody sounds fantastic over the past few days. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for those comments. And we're not finished up there. We those guys on the tower last week had 7 hours on the tower, and that's a long day. That's a long day on the ground. That's a very long day up on the tower. And I myself was on site for just over 11 hours, but I wasn't on the tower, so 11 hours on the ground is a piece of cake compared to what those guys had to do. There are a number of antenna elements that are up there still, and those elements aren't serving any purpose. In fact, they're probably offering a little bit of absorption. They're absorbing RF energy. They're detuning our signals to a degree. They're decreasing the sensitivity of our repeater to a degree. So we need to go back up there and finish the work. And some of that work is going to involve removing some of those antennas that are unnecessary and are broken and are not going to be effective to be used. Some of those antennas can be used, and we will determine what they are, where they are, what frequencies they are, and then to decide whether or not that's something we want to move or remove. And we can always install those antennas later if we end up with a customer that can use them. But for the time being, we want to get as much of that stuff off so that it reduces the parasitic absorption of our signals, both transmit and receive at flagship. Once that's done, we also need to pull up a piece of heliax. We have an antenna that's just down from the antenna that we're operating off of right now. So right now we have one antenna that's serving for transmit and receive. What we intend to do is make that our receive antenna at the top of the tower. And we're going to come down just a short ways. I can't remember what the footage is, but it's a calculated footage that provides for enough distance between a transmit and receive antenna. And that antenna will then be our transmit antenna. So that'll allow us to do away with the duplexer and simply have a receive antenna and a transmit antenna, which should make our transmit a little bit more efficient. But the bigger thing is it will make our receive a little bit more sensitive, which will hopefully help on some of the marginal stations. It just depends. Some of those marginal stations are going to be marginal no matter what until they make efforts to improve their signal. But if we can pull them in just a little bit better by improving our sensitivity at flagship, we might be able to make a difference on some of those. So that's the goal, and we're going to make that location truly the flagship of the fleet of North Georgia GMRS repeaters with the latest in technology and performance. So that's what's going on up there, and thank you for your comments, Ron. I appreciate that. We've just begun. We've still got more work to do up there, so stay tuned for more. That brings me next to Atlanta 26, Flip in the beautiful Druid Hills. Flip, are you finished with dinner?
I am, and I hope everybody's doing well this evening. I just wanted to first shout out to Houston. Houston, if you're listening, I wanted to tell you how sorry I am that you have to go through this. I wish you luck, and I'm thinking about you, buddy. Wanted to tell you also that in 2005, we had at our house, and we had to move out as well. So I'm happy to share some of my notes from that experience with you as to how we dealt with the insurance company and all that. So if you're interested, please call me, and we can talk about it. I am happy to share that thought. Also, Justin, I was just curious, is Atlanta 60 with us this evening?
Flip, yes, the plan was for Atlanta 60 to be with us this evening, and he may at some point join the transmission, but my last conversation with Gary was that he was having a meeting with his remediation company and his insurance company, to iron out some differences and to hopefully get an understanding of what the expectation is on everyone's part. So there's been, I guess, some friction in trying to get some things done, and Gary's just trying to make sure that everybody is on the same page, because you've got one individual saying that, I told them that they could do this, and the other individual saying that we don't have authorization to do that. And so he wanted to have everybody in the same place at the same time. That being the case, I don't know that he'll be with us tonight or not. So it just depends on how that meeting goes and when that finishes up, and how long that we go. So hopefully we'll get a few minutes of Gary. But do you have any questions with what's going on?
Well, yeah, that's why I asked. I was just curious. Something I've always wanted to ask Gary, and I mean this with all due respect. We all contribute to the not-for-profit organization known as North Georgia GMRS Incorporated, and I was just curious if he could clarify, or maybe you could clarify, does that entity own the network or have an interest in the network or not? And I was curious if they do not. I wondered if there was some sort of succession plan for the future, if and when none of us live forever. What would happen down the road in terms of controlling our own destiny with the network? So that's my only question about it all. So thanks, Atlanta 26.
And that is a great question, and it's one that I have occasionally pondered, but I've never really explored with Gary. So my assumption is that if something happened, Gary's son would just assume the responsibilities and the role of taking care of the network and the equipment, etc. Now, how effective that would be, I don't really know. Because Gary's son is not retired, and this network requires a pretty fair amount of attention and effort. Now, I believe that as we make the improvements that we're making, just like with the railroad, when I first came to the railroad, it was rare that I would go home in the evening after work and not get called on a case of trouble. There was almost never a week that went by that I didn't go out several times a week, and very often it was night after night after night, and also very often I would go out on a trouble call, and before I finished that call, I would be engaged in a second or a third trouble call within that evening, and that's the nature of the equipment that we had at the time. Today, sometimes I go an entire month without getting a trouble call. So the role has changed a little bit. We've educated our people to a point now where our people don't have to rely on us whenever there's a case of trouble in the field. So our people are better, but more importantly, our equipment today is much, much better than it was when I started. So the equipment doesn't get into trouble as often as it did back in those days. And I think the same thing is what we can look forward to here with North Georgia GMRS. Our equipment is getting better. And, our repeaters are top notch. They're all commercial class machines, which means that the repeater itself can sit there for months without ever being touched and perform flawlessly. Now, we do try to get to those repeaters annually to do service checks and tune-ups and things of that nature. But even if it didn't happen annually, those machines would just work and work and work and work until something happened and they couldn't. So the machines on that end of things are excellent. The network side of things, we've got some room to grow, and we're learning and we're improving, and we are we're going to get to that place too on the network side, where the linking devices are more reliable and will perform better and for longer periods of time without trouble. And so I think when we get to the place where Gary's not as active or as available as he is right now, hopefully we'll be at a place where also the network is more reliable and a little easier to take care of. And then at that point, hopefully Gary's son Gary will be able to pick it up from there and carry it on. But excellent question, and if Atlanta 60 becomes available this evening, we should definitely try to ask him that. So good stuff. Anything else, Flip?
No, that's really all I was curious about. And it's, again, it's with all due respect, I don't have any issue at all with the organization paying Gary and or his son to continue to maintain it and manage it and all that. I mean, obviously they created it, so they deserve whatever they want with it. But I was just wondering if, in the future, if, well, again, if currently does the organization, that's the not-for-profit organization, does it own any of the network? That was what I was really curious about. And also, if they don't, is there a plan for them to own it down the road, or have the rights to own it before someone else owns it? That kind of thing. That's just my question. But that's because I'm kind of a steward of business and how things work. But anyway, I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that down the road. So, yeah, that's it for me, Atlanta 26.
All right. Well, Flip, I would definitely suggest that we get the answer to those questions right from Gary, because I'll tell you something that's not quite right based on what little I know about the specifics of ownership and stuff. So let's just save that one for now. And if Gary becomes available later this evening, or if you choose to just ask him outside of the net, that would be okay too. But yeah, I'm curious about those things. I've wondered about them on occasion, but I've never really spoken about that with him. So can't give you a better answer than that. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and move next to Atlanta 292. Derek in Rockmart. Derek is in and out with us this evening, but thank you, Derek, for checking in. And we have next Atlanta 270, Scott incoming. Scott, do you have any questions about the state of North Georgia GMRS?
Yes, I actually have a couple questions. First question is, are there any plans to put a repeater maybe somewhere south of Cumming? And the second question is, do you guys post any upcoming events on the website at all so we can kind of know what's coming up?
All right. Well, let me get to your second question first, because I do things backwards around here. And yes, we do have an event coming up, and we post about things of that nature on our Facebook page. So the event that's coming up is the gathering at Wallace Barbecue in Austell on Saturday, May 15 at 2 o'clock. And you're definitely welcome to join us there. And we're going to enjoy some food and fellowship. Atlanta 780 Houston is our host for this event. And this was an event that was originally scheduled for something a little over a year ago, but we canceled it because we were all in fear for our lives. And so we thought we should cancel it and schedule it for another time. Well, another time is now. And so on May 15, we'll be gathering for that. In regard to your other question, did you say south of Cumming? Let me take a look at a map and see if I can figure out where that is. Go ahead and come back with and rephrase your question, please.
All right, so South Forsyth County area. I'm down flagship. So, and I'm on a portable, so I may need to go ahead and bite the bullet and get a bigger radio base station kind of thing to be able to reach it. But I have a little trouble when I'm out and about. It's no big deal, but when I'm at home, if we have a SHTF event, right, I'd like to be able to contact somebody from my house. Secondly, about the Facebook thing, I left when they started canceling people, so I don't do Facebook at all. So that's why I was asking if you post anything on the website.
Okay, I understand and I get it with regards to Facebook. I completely appreciate your sentiment. I myself explored the MeWe app as an alternative to Facebook, and I think it's a very good alternative. It just doesn't have as much participation as Facebook does. So North Georgia GMRS is probably going to continue to remain on Facebook for those kind of communications and for that kind of networking. So no, we don't really post anything on the web page. It's just for me, it's another thing to have to try to keep up with. And if we had a better PR person or somebody that knew their way around that kind of stuff, we could maybe incorporate that at some point. But today, we just don't. I don't have the time to manage multiple formats like that. I can barely keep up with what we've got going on with our Facebook page. So no, I think your best source for information is going to be on Thursday nights and on Facebook. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. Any other questions?
Not at this time, thank you. You can call me out.
No, all right. I'll go ahead and show you clear of the net, Scott. Thank you for your comments this evening. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our last check-in, which is Atlanta 393, Andrew in Dallas. Andrew is in and out with us this evening, and that is the end of our list. So at this time, Net Control will open up the floor for any additional questions, comments, or late check-ins. Net Control standing by.
A late check-in, WRJN 906, Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock.
Late check-in. This is WRJN 291, WQAJ 279, Acworth. Late check-in as well, in and out. Good evening.
Okay, we had several check-ins all at once in there, and I heard two of them. And I think there were 4 or maybe 5. So I'm going to acknowledge the 2 that I heard. I heard Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. Thank you, Steve, for checking in with us this evening. Great to hear from you. And I have Atlanta 291, Nick in Acworth. Nick is in and out with us this evening, so thank you, Nick, for checking in. It's great to hear from you as well. And that's all I heard. So I think we have a couple more that we're trying to check in. So let's go ahead and stand by for those check-ins at this time.
Chattanooga 58, WREC 529, Bill in Chattanooga on the Lookout Mountain repeater. Chattanooga 89, Chat 89. This is Chris, Lookout Mountain repeater.
Atlanta 083, Jamie, Talking Rock on the flagship.
Is
555 back on the air with a radio problem. And I did have a question for you, Justin, once you get through the check-in.
Okay, I think we've got this sorted out. We have the loudest of the bunch. Chattanooga 5-8 was able to talk all over the top of the rest of you. Bill in Chattanooga, thank you, Bill, for that check-in this evening. Looking forward to chatting with you here in just a few minutes. And lots of exciting stuff happened this week. Chattanooga 8-9, Chris, also in the Chattanooga area. Thank you, Chris, for checking in with us this evening. And we have Atlanta 083, Jamie, and Talking Rock. Thank you, Jamie, for checking in with us this evening. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 555 with his question and or comment. Dave, go ahead.
Sorry about that earlier. My brand new radio, as soon as I start transmitting, bit the dust. So I think I have a power supply problem. Only thing in common. Anyway, yeah, I want to comment about the new flagship repeater. I enjoyed the pictures that Atlanta 911 had posted and was wondering what is the elevation of our antenna on that tower? What's the elevation above ground?
Excellent question. So, our antenna is right at the top of that tower. It's a 180-foot tower. The top of our antenna is probably at the 185-ish point. So we're just a little bit taller than the very peak of the tower. That could possibly be moved up a little bit at some point, but it's really in a pretty good spot where it is. In order to do any changes in elevation on that antenna, we first have to remove some of the stuff that's up there. And by stuff, I mean broken antennas, antennas that are unused, antennas that have broken elements or elements that are tuned incorrectly. And we have an antenna up there that is tuned very close to our frequency. Or actually, it's a harmonic of our frequency, so we think that that antenna is going to affect our receive sensitivity significantly. So once we get that stuff off the tower, we should see additional improvements. And as I mentioned earlier, we plan to separate our transmit and receive, which will allow us to do away with the duplexer, and that should also give us significant gains in our receive sensitivity. We're already at maximum legal power, so we can't really turn the power up anymore. We're right there. We can't really go any hotter with our signal than we are right now, and I don't think that we need to. But good stuff. Any other questions, Dave?
So I was curious about, and thank you to everybody that spent their weekend out there in that tower getting it going. So I appreciate it, and back to you.
All right. I don't remember what the elevation of the mountain is, but we have a 180-foot tower at that mountain, and we are right at the top of that. So once all the junk antennas are removed, there won't be anything above us. We will have the prime spot on that tower, and we'll make sure that any other customers that come along will occupy spots on the tower that don't interfere with North Georgia GMRS. So excellent stuff. Let me go next to Chattanooga 5-8, Bill in Chattanooga. Bill, we've had an exciting week this week, haven't we? Holy cow, what an incredible day it was yesterday. Were you celebrating? Were you jumping up and down and shaking your arms like I was?
Hello, Justin. This is Chattanooga 58 WREC 529. I'm still on cloud nine. I'm on cloud nine. And when I try to talk to some of the other people in this facility here, they just don't want to hear it. They aren't interested in it like I am. And I'm hoping this will help. This will help SpaceX get its contract back with NASA. And I thought I'd mention, for whatever reason, the Lookout Mountain repeater is fading in and out. I don't know if it's a power problem or antenna, but I thought I'd mention that. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm still on cloud nine and will be for a while. Been watching reruns on the NASA channel all day long of that
that incident that happened there in Boca Chica, Texas. Anyway, this is WREC 529, back to net control.
Yes, fantastic stuff. And for those of you that aren't up to speed, Bill and I are both tremendous fans of SpaceX and the work that's being done in Boca Chica, Texas, and we're both celebrating the successful landing of Starship serial number 15 yesterday afternoon. The test flight was a bit of a nail biter because the day was so overcast and cloudy. There were very low clouds, and so most of the flight couldn't be seen on camera. And the cameras on the test craft were cutting in and out. So there was very little information about what was going on throughout the flight. You know, whereas in the flight of SN8, we were able to observe most of the flight. We could see the rocket go up. We watched it hover at altitude. We watched it kick over and become horizontal. We watched it come down in a horizontal state. We watched it flip, and we watched it attempt to land. And all of that was very dramatic and very exciting. Unfortunately, it ran out of power. One of the engines ingested its own components and began spatting them out, and was so reduced in power as a result that it crashed on the landing pad. Whereas SN15 was successful in all of those maneuvers, we just couldn't see them. And when it came back down, we didn't see any of the horizontal flight. All we saw was this rocket standing up on end. It had already flipped when it came through the clouds, and come down and make a successful landing on what appeared to be two engines. And holy cow, very, very exciting stuff. At least it is for me, and apparently it is also for Chattanooga 5-8. So, and yeah, Bill, I have to think that at this point, SpaceX will proceed whether they have that NASA contract or not. And because they don't have the NASA contract, they can just work, you know, on a case-by-case basis, and NASA can just pay them to do the work that the other providers are incapable of producing. So until they can demonstrate that they're able to do it, you know, why spend money on the maybes when we've got a winner here? So good stuff. Appreciate that. And yeah. Now, Bill, do you have any questions with regard to North Georgia GMRS? You commented that the lookout machine was fading. Let me break real quick because I might be at that 4-minute mark. You had commented that the lookout mountain machine was fading, and that probably, well, it could be a power supply issue. I'm going to say that the biggest fault that you're experiencing with that lookout mountain machine is that long-winded net controller that just can't be quiet, and he just rambles on and on and on and won't give that machine a break. So that could be part of the problem. We'll have to get the owners of that machine to get up there and have a look and see if there's any improvements that can be made there to let that machine stand up a little bit longer for these nets. But we'll look into it and we'll let you know what we find. Thank you for that, Bill. Do you have any other questions about the network?
No, Justin, I've thoroughly enjoyed GMRS. I really do. And I apologize. I checked in a little bit late tonight. I got enthusiastic about watching stuff on television, and time got away from me, but I did make it. This is WREC 529, Chattanooga 58, and back to net control.
Outstanding. All right, Bill. Have a terrific evening, and as long as you make it before we close the net, you're not really late. So there you go. Next on my list is Chattanooga 89, Chris in the Chattanooga area. Chris, do you have any questions about the state of the North Georgia GMRS network? Chattanooga 89. You're up. Do you have any questions for us, or were you in and out and I missed it? All right, we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll see if we can catch up with Chattanooga 89 another time. For now, we're just going to go ahead and show Chattanooga 89 as in and out. And thank you for your check-in tonight, Chris. I appreciate that. That moves me next to Atlanta 83083, Jamie in Talking Rock. Jamie, how you doing this evening? And do you have any questions about the network? All right, not hearing anything from Jamie. I'm going to go ahead and show Jamie as in and out this evening. And that brings me again to the end of the list. So at this time, Net Control is going to take another break, and the floor is open for any questions or comments, and Net Control standing by for any late check-ins.
Well, good evening, Justin and the Net from Noonan 29. Entire phone, WRCU 796. Call me the Latester.
All right, the original tail gunner, Noonan 29, Marty in Tyrone. Marty, do you have any questions about the North Georgia GMRS net or the state of things within?
I've been following the Facebook group, and I have to say that's been keeping me quite up to speed at what's been going on. Looks like a lot of activity has been accomplished in the past week, and a lot more to come as we go forward. And a little setback there for Houston. Certainly prayers and good thoughts go out to Houston and family for having to endure setback like that. That was kind of a shocker that you live your whole life. What's the odds you get zapped by lightning? Pretty slim. Hope he bought a lottery ticket.
Well, I bet you if you ask him, he's not going to feel like he's won any lotteries. But in any case, yeah, we're very thankful that things didn't turn out worse than they are. We're very thankful that that it's just possessions and that there's no injury involved. Because I really think that based on what Houston told me, they had no idea the house was on fire until Mona saw some fire from the furnace, and they went to douse that and found there was no water coming from the sink, and so she grabbed a water bottle, went over to the furnace, and was able to put that fire that she saw out. But that's when they discovered that they had a much bigger problem, and thankfully they made that discovery with time to get out safely. So could have been a very different story, and it could have been a very different outcome. So it's scary stuff to think about. That man, I don't have a smoke detector in my attic. Maybe I need to put one up there, because that sort of thing could happen, and you could have a very serious problem before you knew it, and then by the time you know it, your exit path may be blocked. So that's a scary thing, and it's not something I put a lot of thought into until now. But great to hear from you, Marty, and we've got you in the tail gunner spot. Let's see if you can hold it. Net Control going to go ahead and take one more break for any additional questions and comments, and standing by for late check-ins.
This is Atlanta 123, WRFP 619, Tim and Woodstock.
No, all right, Marty. I think Tim did that to you on purpose. This is Atlanta This is Net Control acknowledging Atlanta 123. Tim in Woodstock. Thanks for checking in tonight, Tim. Do you have any questions or comments with regard to the state of the network?
No, I think most of them have been answered. I look forward to maybe having a future net like this where Gary can join and get in some of those, some questions that weren't quite sure about. But thank you for hosting this evening, and I'll leave it back to Net Control.
All right. Well, there's a couple of questions that never really got answered or never really got asked tonight, and so I'll go ahead and spend a little bit of time on that. And that is, we have a lot on our plate this year. There's a lot of projects that are underway. We've been researching new sites, as many of you know. We have the Blue Ridge site that is active now. Although it's not linked in, we intend to link it as soon as we're able to through the Sassafras, or I'm sorry, the flagship site. As soon as we're ready to do that and have the flagship site ready, then we'll go ahead and make those connections to get Blue Ridge linked in. But in addition to Blue Ridge, we're looking at a site down in Bremen. Gary's going to go survey that location tomorrow to determine whether or not we can install equipment there, and whether or not we can come to an agreement with the property owner there. And hopefully we'll have we'll be able to move forward on the engineering for that location. We are also looking at additional sites in Lula and in Griffin. So we are actively in pursuit of expanding our footprint of our network and, more importantly, our level of service. So for many of us, it's very important to be able to reach more than one repeater. And I like to be able to reach several. And I do demonstrate that from time to time by scanning around and trying to make contacts on multiple repeaters. And I have 3 that I'm very, very consistent about getting into. I have a 4th that I would like to, but I just don't know that I'm ever going to have enough mast to make line of sight to the 4th one. So 3 is a good number. 2 is where you really want to be. And if 1 is all you can get, then at least you've got 1. So, but one thing we have to be aware of is that things can happen and weather can take a repeater down. We do make a lot of effort at making sure our repeaters will stand up to things like power outages and normal weather events, but things sometimes are abnormal, and the unexpected can and does happen. And with that in mind, the best way to be prepared as a user, as a member, is to have the capability of accessing more than one linked repeater, and a goal that we should all have. So bear that in mind. We are making an investment in the network, and we're not only investing in quality locations but quality equipment, and we are making every effort to make improvements where it matters so that this network will become more and more reliable as time goes on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call a close to this evening's net. We have a total of, how many do we have? We have a total of 32 check-ins this evening, including myself. So this will conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. The net control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. I want to thank everyone for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514, and I'll be clear.
I have a question. This is Chad 89. I'm just now back on the air.
All right, Chad 89. Go ahead with your question, and then we'll start closing it out. Go ahead.
I have a question about the repeater up on Lookout Mountain. And the basis of my question, well, if you can answer just one question, it might just clear everything up. Does the repeater receive in all 360 degrees around it And does it transmit that way, or is it kind of bi-directional? In other words, could it be focusing more towards the Blue Ridge and North Georgia area?
Well, it's entirely possible, depending on how the antenna is situated, that it has more of a focus in a bidirectional way, as you suggested. I haven't been to that location, and I don't know how that tower and that antenna are configured. I don't even know specifically what antenna is on that tower. But it is, if you take a DB420, they consider that antenna to be omnidirectional. However, the way that antenna is made, it has a tendency to have equal lobes in two directions and smaller lobes in the offset of those two directions. So with that being said, it could very well be configured that way, but I don't know exactly what antenna is up there and how it's configured. So I would think that the folks around the Chattanooga area would be more familiar with that machine, and probably some of them have been to it and could tell you better than I can. I guess I just need to make a point of driving up there one of these days and visiting that particular site, but I've not had a need to yet.
The reason for my question is where I'm located, where I'm at right now, the area I'm talking from my driveway on a base unit, and I get good reception here. I can hear you guys clearly, and I can transmit. But if I go up the street in the northward direction, it seems like I fade out. And I can actually see the mountain from the northern direction up here at my son's school. I can see the mountain. And, I mean, it's like a direct link to it, I'm sitting up on a hill, and I'm looking, but I cannot get out worth nothing. And the question I have is this, one more part to that question. I'm sorry to do this. But if I'm hearing you clearly, should I be transmitting clearly if I have, say like this Midland I have, I put out, it's a 50 watt. So I don't know what's actually packing, but I mean, my SWRs are great on it. But is there something I can do in configuration to where whatever I'm transmitting, I should be able to receive? Does that make sense?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I think that's worth spending a little bit of time on. So some of the things that you talked about being able to, when you drive northward from your driveway, you can see the Lookout Mountain machine from that roadway, but sometimes you have trouble getting to it. So from your mobile, I'm assuming. With that being the case, the location of the antenna on the vehicle can have some impact on the directionality of the signal that emanates from your vehicle, if that makes sense. So generally we want our antennas to be pretty centered on the vehicle in order for the radiation pattern to be omnidirectional, and if the antenna is offset to one side or the other, that can make the signal less omnidirectional and a little bit more pointed. The lobe will be larger in one direction than in others. So that being the case, that's one thing to consider. But the other thing that you mentioned was, if you can hear a signal, shouldn't you be able to talk to it? So let's spend a little bit of time on that. Let me break. On our Facebook page, Scott Marlowe recently wrote a post that talks a lot about communications with repeaters and different radios. And in that piece, he talks about, starting off with an HT. You have a radio in your hand with a 5-watt transmitter, and you can stand on a hill and you can hear a machine, and you can try to talk to that machine. But you've only got 5 watts going out, and you've only got the little bitty antenna that came with the radio on it. So how far will that 5 watts go is one part of the equation. And the other part of the equation is how sensitive is the receiver on the antenna you're trying to talk to, on the radio that you're trying to talk to. And those two things come into play as a unit. So you have to have a combination of receiver sensitivity and transmit power. Now, if you take that same location and you move from your 5-watt handheld and you go to a 20-watt mobile, you've just increased your transmit power tremendously. And in addition to having 20 watts of power, now you've moved the antenna up on top of the vehicle, so you have a little more height. So you've increased your transmitter capability again by another factor, just by moving from a handheld to a mobile. And so those are things to consider. And then again, when you install a base and you have an antenna on a mast and you have a good grounding system and you have a good power supply, and you have a 40-watt radio or a 50-watt radio, now you've increased your capabilities again even more. So in all three of those situations, whether it's a handheld, whether it's a mobile, or whether it's a base, you have good receive, but are you going to have the same transmit capabilities? Probably not. So I don't know if that specifically addresses your concern, because I agree. It seems like if you can see it from where you're at, you've got line of sight, you probably ought to be able to get to it. I wonder if it's different if you're heading north up the road or if you're heading south down the road. I don't know. That's something worth looking at, and if that has anything to do with the antenna placement on your vehicle. Just some ideas to poke around at and see if you can gain any traction with. Chattanooga 89, did I go too long and time out the repeater?
Out. And like I say, the SWRs on it are terrific, according to the guy that tested them for me. And, you know, I'm carry the same amount of wattage as where I'm at right now versus over there. And like I say, as the crows fly, it's northward from me, and it's about 2.5 miles. And I'm on a hill, and I'm sitting in the parking lot, I'm not even moving, and I'm looking right at Lookout Mountain, because I can see it off in the distance. And so that's the reason I had that question, is if it's bidirectional, where I might be just on the cusp of that, you know, that little edge right there, and it's not getting out there. But I can hear, but I cannot transmit to it there. And I don't know if the antennas that's receiving are bidirectional or what transmits is bidirectional.
Yeah, and that's a valid question, because, you know, not all repeaters are using the same antenna for receive and transmit. Many are, but some are not. So you could have a situation where your receive sensitivity is diminished based on the position of the receive antenna, whereas you're getting slammed by that transmit. Like, for instance, if the receive antenna is on the far side of the tower structure, you may have the tower in your way. So I haven't been to that location. I don't know its specific complement of equipment or configuration, but these things are all possible, and it might be worth arranging a visit to that site.
Or, you know, I'm just going to have to deal with it, because it's kind of out of my control. But I just thought it was maybe a good conversation piece here for. I just come back from taking my exam for my technician license, so it's all in a learning curve here. You know, I'm just trying to get into this thing, and you guys sprouted me into this. You guys, I've really enjoyed sitting watching the net at night and listening to you guys, and this is really the first time I've been able to communicate with you, because it's been a slow process with me getting everything set up, but I really appreciate all you guys do for me and all the help I've been getting off Facebook. You guys have been excellent, and I've been keeping up with you guys and Sassafras and all that stuff. It's been wonderful to watch all this.
Well, that's good stuff, and I'm glad that you were able to get involved. And yeah, I tell you, I couldn't be more proud of our Facebook folks, the community on Facebook, the help. You know, it is a very uncommon thing for Atlanta 60 or myself to have to moderate any of the comments or any of the pages. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that most of the people that we have comment and uh, uh, they post things that are constructive and to help further and to help develop new users and answer questions in positive and meaningful ways rather than belittle or demean people for not knowing better. I know that there's a lot of pages that thrive on that sort of behavior, and I'll tell you, it's not something that we've had to cultivate here. It's something that just sort of happened, and I believe that it happens because of the quality of people that are involved in this network, and I believe that we have a great quality of character within the group of North Georgia GMRS. And when I say that, I'm speaking of everyone that I've encountered. I don't sit here and think that these are all great people except for that one or except for that one. I'm telling you, these are all great people, and I'm proud and humbled to be a part of this network. So thank you for your comments. And yeah, all of your questions are valid, and I wish I had better answers for you. It's something that I think we just have to get down to the particulars and explore on foot and to be able to get better answers for you. And that's another thing, when it comes to radio, there's no one size fits all. The rig that I'm using here works great for me, and it might not work for you at all. I might not have enough power. I've only got 40 watts. I might not have a high enough antenna. I'm only at 30 feet. I might not have the right coax. I might not have adequate grounding. I might not have line of sight to a repeater. All of these things come into play, and they're all variables that have to be considered, virtually on a case-by-case basis. So based on what you've described, I don't have a good answer for you. You have to just figure it out, like you say, and one of these days we'll stumble across a solution, I'm sure. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and pause one more time and see if there's any additional questions before I close the net again.
This is Atlanta 295 WRFN 658. Justin, if you could put me in the book as checked in and out this evening, I'd appreciate it.
All right, Atlanta 295, Scott in Dallas. I've got you in the log as in and out, and that's going to make you number 33 for the evening. So let's try this again. This will conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of 33 check-ins, including myself. This net will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use, I promise. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thank you once again for allowing me to serve as your net control. Good evening, everyone. This is Atlanta 946 WQIR 514, and I'm clear.
Atlanta 123 WRFE 619, clear.
And clear.
Atlanta 57 WQZC 882, I'm clear. Good night, everyone.
Okay, Facebook folks. Wow, what a night. Looks like we had a very successful live stream. Looks like we didn't have any interruptions throughout the evening, which is, I think, the second time ever that's happened. So that's very cool.
Atlanta 180, WRBT 591, I'm clear.
And it looks like
WRJC 263, Atlanta 538 and 539. Robin Carroll, clear. Great net tonight, everybody. Everybody have a good night.
Very cool. All right. So it looks like we're in really, really good shape as far as the net goes on the YouTube live stream. I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me this evening and enduring all of that. Hopefully we'll get better at the production side of the live stream and switching the scenes a little bit better than I did tonight. And really, that's it. So, folks, thanks again for hanging out with me. I'm really looking forward to visiting with you again very soon.